This is the Ad Non-Tech podcast, conversations about education, technology, and culture, with Dr. Doug Reed and Dr. Matt Stranick. Thank you for joining us.
My name is Dr. Doug Reed, and I am located in Abagway, the traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people.
My name is Dr. Matthew Stranick, and I am located in Menakwisk in St. John, New Brunswick, which is situated on the traditional and unceded territory of the Wolastoqiyik Maliseet people.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 34 of the Ad Non-Tech podcast. With you, myself, Matt Stranick, and as ever, Dr. Doug Reed. How are you doing, Doug?
Hello, everybody. I'm a bit nasally, but so if I sound different, that's why.
Well, so first of all, thoughts and prayers. Second of all, very glad that you were able to persevere. And I guess I would also just say, welcome back from traveling to, you were gone overseas, as it were, for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. It was kind of a longer trip, wasn't it?
10 days. Left on a Friday,
10 days,
came back
week and a
on
half.
Sunday. Yeah, week and a bit.
Okay. Was that your first time in Scotland, can I ask, or has it just been the first time in a while?
First time as a grown-up. I was there when I was 22, when I just finished my undergrad degrees. It's very different as a grown-up adult with life experience. It was lovely.
As opposed to just going there primarily for whatever goes into your mind when you're 22. I wouldn't know. It's been a while for me. Okay. Well, so this is full disclosure. First of all, very excited about this topic because it did take some getting to. This is all about, and I think we actually on this show have got a lock on this particular acronym, personal education infrastructure. Right, Doug?
Yes.
PEI, for those of you who may not know what an acronym is. So.
Yeah, and I live in PEI, so I'm biased that way. But way back last spring, last winter, you riffed off personal education infrastructure. And I was like, holy crud, I got to write that down. That's so good. That encompasses a topic that we need to come back to. So I'm excited to be here today to actually get to dig into it a bit more.
Well, fair enough, man. That's cool. And I like how we've kind of got enough momentum kind of behind this. Also, full disclosure, besides this being, I think only the second episode that we've actually used for StreamYard, which is kind of its own thing. Hence my aquamarine background with shades of floral couch behind me here. But this is also a redo of an episode. We do feel obligated to walk it like we talk it on the show from an educational standpoint, and there's a certain amount of quality control that goes into this. I'm in a very interesting spot with my new job, my new role, where I'm not looking at academic references so much anymore as I am looking at just various shades of internal memoranda, I suppose, policy documents, just things of the sort relative to the organization. So I've got a newfound appreciation and respect, pardon me, I suppose, for our colleagues who are involved in the quality assurance game. So I'm going to do my dangest, Doug, to not say every 30 odd seconds or so throughout the episode. And if I end up saying it more than a couple of times, then please feel free to just give me the elbow or the hook even, right? So
I didn't notice when we were talking. It was only after when I was listening to it, and it's like, holy moly, there's a few of
well,
them.
I went so far as to produce the entire episode with just kind of my cursory. Well, it was good enough in the moment for us to. So the show notes for this are all ready to go. And like I've got the whole PowerPoint thingy that has to go into Camtasia. So speaking of sort of, from a, if I say that again, I'm in trouble, real trouble.
That's your one.
That's it. That's my one strike. 2 strikes and I'm out. Doug, I think we've just kind of provided an instance of how this show does contain its own customized, personal, and educational-ish infrastructure. Because we've kind of done the how do you do a podcast kind of episode. So it has to be said clearly that everybody who does a podcast is going to be doing it differently, using different processes, not just a matter of content. It's with the variety of tools and applications available at our disposal, it's almost impossible to consider that each podcast or each podcast episode, it's a unique endeavor, I think. So that's my opening gambit there, Doug. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, because my first article, you tied your current job into the first reference that I found, the Kelly, Phipps, and Swift 2004 article, where
and I love
they
that
came up with a fantastic graphic. Me too. But quality assurance is everywhere in that graphic. That QA absolutely matters more than everything else.
Quality
Because
assurance.
no matter how great. Go ahead, sir.
Sorry. Okay. Quality assurance is like oxygen. You don't notice it until it's not there. And when you do, it's like to the order of a bridge collapsing or some engineering equation just had a wrong decimal on it, and then suddenly a school bus goes over a cliff, for instance.
Yeah, we're on the same page. You don't notice it until it's like, what the heck just happened?
Until something goes horribly awry. So looking at it from a proactive standpoint, and I love that graphic. It looks like the nuclear symbol. It reminds me of nuclear fission somehow. Highly significant elements there. So sorry to barge in on you, pal. Please continue.
No problem. So this graphic from developing a holistic approach for e-learning accessibility from the Canadian Journal of Learning and Technology. Right in the center of it is learner needs, and on the outside is quality assurance, and everything else is in the middle, like in between. It's like the layers of a sandwich, right? There's infrastructure, learning outcomes, local factors, usability, accessibility. And I loved it because of the infrastructure component. Because this summer, when we went on hiatus, you had, 4 different infrastructure situations? It was something like that. There was a lot of can I get this done this way? Can I get this done that way? And even last spring, you had at least 4 different locations where you could bring your laptop and we could do our recording. But like, how is that going to work? Is the infrastructure a place to do whatever? Are we having to record on hotel Wi-Fi? Or did you even have a desk at one point? Or did you just have everything on like the plastic stacky boxes? And we made it work, which is great. But part of that is our skills, right? Because you've got some skills, I've got some skills. So just taking a look at that infrastructure around it and how impossible it could be for some people to get it done. So I would love your take on like how you've adapted to your different infrastructures. And even now, like this is our second episode with StreamYard, right? Like, how is that infrastructure impacting you? And we're still learning. So this is definitely personal education infrastructure.
I'm just sitting here trying not to say, that's what I'm trying to do. Everything you said was on point and interesting. And I'm just like, please don't let me look back on this in an hour and a half with like verbal miscues and tics. So quality assurance, until you actually start living in that world and thinking about versioning of documents. I don't think I'm giving out any trade craft here, but I will say that I came up with a version 1.9 of a document last week, and I sent it to my boss for review, and he had some comments and he sent it back. And when I acted on those comments, I thought to myself, should this be version 1.91 or 1.95 or 2.0? And that's where you can actually get into the nomenclature, because there's Government of Canada, general standards about this kind of thing, use of metadata, see, I'm going to draw attention to it every time I say it, to the point where, because actually, funny story, after that was kind of pointed out, I actually went back through Camtasia and like, how hard can it be? Maybe there's only 3 or 4 or 5. And by the time I got halfway to the episode, just zoning in on that one phrase on the timeline, I made like 12 cuts. And it was like, even just cutting them out adds this disjuncture to the, if you got the skills, which we do, to pay the bills, which we do, then you can make it work. 3 or 4 little mini cuts you wouldn't necessarily know. But if you're talking a dozen within 25 minutes and you're shaving off 2 or 3 entire minutes from the length of a recording just for one person's verbal miscue that they weren't even thinking about, and that they're interlocular, that being you, it's how much of this communication that we kind of project into the world is just going out there unintentionally and distortedly, I suppose. It makes the communications instructor in me prick up my ears a bit, if you know what I mean. So thanks for the opportunity to speak to that, Doug.
No worries, no worries. And luckily, we have the infrastructure, right? We already have our background knowledge. We have our structures in place. We have our technology, and we are learning. And holy moly, I never expected this to be a learning opportunity the way it was. And luckily, with a part of our infrastructure is we can record again and then talk about stuff nobody else will ever hear. Right? That'll be a between you and me. Nobody else ever has to hear that episode. I assume you probably deleted it by now.
Well, so this is the factoid about having a constructionist approach underpinning what we do on this program, Doug, which I'm going to land squarely responsibly for you, because I was sort of constructionist, whatever. I was kind of ambivalent about it, but you came into that with a very definite opinion about that terminology. And over the times that we've spoken to that, which is numbering in the at least 5 or 6 times, I've come to the viewpoint that these tangible, physical, actually, artifacts from the show, even the ones that don't get used, all have some potential for value. So just say, okay, I'm just going to not use the video aspect of this at all, but I may just get the AI to produce a transcript really quickly. And then I can scrape that for textual elements or for individual aphorisms or some cool stuff that came up. So I sort of think of it as there's this whole body of additional material that, even though it doesn't sort of fit within the primary output of a podcast episode as such. So this is where Ed Nontech, the book proposal, starts to become, you know what I mean, Doug, because I think that I've been toying with book proposal-ish things, and it's it's getting closer to real fruition there. So.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Now, two things I find very interesting about what happened is we've been doing this for more than a year. And
That's
this is
right.
the first time either of us picked up a phrase and then used it throughout a whole episode. And it was just, oh yeah, okay. So it's almost like if you were bored one day and had nothing to do, you could do the highlight reel the other way and cut out everything but the knows, and then pump out a little 3-minute video of of all of those. For audio, you don't have to.
I benefit significantly from having creative colleagues such as Doug, folks. If I haven't made that clear, I've really found since the whole challenges that I went through for a certain period of time in my career, truly the podcasting endeavor, in as much as we're talking about personal approaches to things. So between this, I realized this, I was talking about this with Dan, we've achieved 14 episodes in 11 months with the other one. So if I'm sort of looking at a year where prior to that, there had just been no podcasts as a thing for me, within a 13-month span between this and the other one, clocking in, for certainty, because each of these episodes has a number, that it's up to close to episode 45 or something like that. So for me, the fact that they feed into each other, and for me also the fact that I can actually pin episodes of this show to LinkedIn as being somewhat involved with me getting my current role, that's something that was completely untapped. And had I known, I don't know if I would have started with it sooner or what, but it's gone from being not something at all within my repertoire, within my practice, to something that's a very significant part of it for professional and for creative purposes, I would dare say. So thanks to people like Doug, who actually think this stuff is interesting also. It's a two-man AV club, basically. So anyway, just another ramble.
It's a two-man AV club, but nobody has a cart with the wheels that you got to put stuff on and put things back on the shelves.
Right.
Yeah.
So in terms
I don't
now
know. I
of,
jumped on the
and some of us don't even know how to drive. So here's something. You got the e-learning and accessibility, an exploration of the potential role of generic pedagogical tools. You want to speak to that one a bit there, pal? It's the Seal and Cooper.
Seal and Cooper article from Seal and Cooper from 2010. Yeah. Now, what's surprising with this, with me, what brought this up? Because the first one we talked about was from 2004. This is 2010, so that's still 13 years ago. And it was the lack of knowledge to how to make e-learning accessible. And I was in my heyday then because I studied it. I knew how to do these things, and I lived in various places. Like the amount of stuff back then, especially 20 years ago, that was coming out that was, with your broadband network. And it's like, well, I don't have a broadband network. So that means all your video's gone. So that means we can't do this. Oh, and I'm using a Mac. So half the software isn't possible because it won't load onto a Mac. And it was just all this money got pumped into how do we make it accessible? And nobody knew. It was incredible. It was like, I'm going to put a grant application out there for, I'm going to make it accessible, and people are going to throw money at me, and I'm going to come back with nothing. So it was kind of like the Yukon Gold Rush, right? There was money there, and is it helping the students? I don't think so. Some people made some money, some people made a reputation, but a whole lot of people still didn't learn how to do it.
I'm just thinking maybe more like the first discovery of Bitcoin. Crypto.
Yeah. Yeah, I prefer my gold rush thing because there was gold in that ground. I still don't understand how anybody is trusting Bitcoin. I don't get it. I know some people got very rich because they got in and got out. Good for them, I guess. But I need something more solid than that. Being the constructionist, I need that tangible thing at the end.
Tangibility.
Whatever the tangible thing. Yeah.
So this is where exactly. Go ahead, sir.
No, it was just how many tools can we come up with that don't work? Right? Can you imagine doing research? I remember one for my master's. I sat in the computer lab because I didn't have my own computer with enough power, and I just pumped through SPSS and pumped through the other data analysis softwares, and it was like, okay, is this significant? Is this significant? Is this significant? And the head of my department came by, just like, what are you doing? And it's like, I'm on a quest for significance. I'm running every single thing against every other thing to try to find something that's significant so I can write about it, because the person in charge of the project needs something significant. And he just smiled, shook his head, and said, yep, good luck. And just walked away. Like so it was that kind of thing. It's like, how did so much time and effort go into this and nothing came across that was of value, right? Like, there was such a lack of knowledge. And I think we're doing better now. And I think the pandemic helped with that, because we had no choice. It was throw everybody in the deep end. Because I know at the beginning of the pandemic, there was an awful lot of IT departments in post-secondaries that were like, oh my goodness, what do you mean every single prof wants to do a 3-hour video lecture with their students every week or every day? So accessibility.
I was in a very,
and we learned.
I was in a very interesting situation at TRU where not only did the pandemic happen, but that's when definitively my director and I stopped getting along, and it became something where my utter downward trajectory within that role was assured within the space of about 3 or 4 email. It was one of those, and I had a year and a half to go left at that joint, and it was just clear this was going to be a slog. So because it's like, I remember being largely sidelined in a disciplinary silo built for one during that whole buildup of let's all get together and make these resources, because the guy wanted to prove a point, I suppose, both to me and to my other colleagues. So I had this interesting experience of like, there's this frenetic work activity of like, let's build this all up. We're all in this together. And I'm just utterly removed from that, explicitly doing some like menial administrative tasks. It was very, very disconcerting. And as I say now, it was a learning moment. So I'm grateful for it. But wow, at the time, adding discord to discombobulation, basically. Anyway, maybe more personal than we wanted to go with this, but it's what came to mind when you described it, Doug. So
yeah, well, and with infrastructure also includes like our community of inquiry, right? Our community of learning, who we're with, and it's like, if I'm trying to build a project, I have a pile of tools, right? I have a bunch of Rubbermaid bins full of tools, and I'm trying to get them up on the wall and stuff. I'm not going to ignore some valuable, expensive tools just because of whatever my attitude is, right? It's like, this is not helping the team.
I was an unused tool. Thank you for helping. I was an underutilized tool. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that.
I am not calling you a tool.
I'm calling myself a tool, and rightfully so, in true constructive fashion. I sort of see myself as a catalyst for other people's discomfort to a certain extent, because that's everyone's like, let's have disruptive education or disruptive whatever. And I'm so sick of that phrase, disruptive anything. But it's actually true. Everybody's on board with it until the disruption actually starts to happen. And then you realize, oh, there's some unintended consequences to this, which, had I considered it even briefly, may have been intended or not, right? So the world of work, I've spent 18 years in this post-secondary kind of thing, and now I'm out of it, and I'm in the world of workplace learning, and I'm starting to get a feel for it now, and it's pretty dang cool, man. So we got this dichotomy between what you're bringing to the thing and what I'm bringing to the thing, but interestingly, like a Venn diagram, if you will, there's this overlap where we have kind of the security space in between the programming at your institution and the raison d'etre, if you will, of what I'm involved in with my firm. So
sometimes I got to curse you because I got to go write some of that down right now. Because
I just went on a tangent, dude.
5 ideas.
That's all that was. Generic tangent.
It makes me laugh when people want disruption. It's like, oh no, not like that though.
Yeah, like the kind of disruption that means that I get to keep my job and be successful and maintain all my social standing and enhance that. Disruption means that it's going to be actually uncomfortable sometimes. So these people who just sort of get on a desk and are like, I'm an innovator, I am a disruptor, and everyone kind of coos along. Oh, you really are. It's maybe you're not quite as disruptive as you think if you have a bunch of people cheering with you and for you, right? Just my opinion, not casting any specific aspirations on anybody there, just a noted observation. Am I right? If people agree with you, then you're to a mass extent, you're probably not as you're not exactly like somebody that dude riding the horse. The British are coming. You're not quite at that level there. You know what I mean, pal?
I do, and I'm going to take it from a different direction.
Okay.
I've had people say, "Oh, I'm creative," and I'm like, if you have to tell me you're creative, you're not. Right? Nobody that's creative tells people they're creative. It's like, no, you're just messy and disorganized. Right? That's not creative. Oh, I'm smart. If you have to tell me you're smart, you're probably not, because I'm going to observe and make my own judgments and determinations on that. So if you like, oh, it's like, yes, I'm a constructionist. And I think over this past year, my push to continue to pump these podcasts out and have them look a certain way and have our banter back and forth and have our investigations, I think I could demonstrate here. Here's a bunch of demonstrations that show it. I don't have to tell you and have you just accept it. And I would hate it if you just accepted it. I need the pushback. I need that give and take.
I'm in a relationship now for the first time in a while, and it's the first time really since I was remarking to the lady in question. It was the first time probably since the early years of what was a 17-year marriage where I kind of look at it and go, okay, this is actually firing on all the cylinders that I need it to be. And she's incredibly smart. She has nothing to do with education. She's not involved in that at all. But I've had the opportunity to kind of just reflect on the circumstances that have reached the situation that I'm currently in. And apart from just not having my kids around to the extent that I'm used to, apart from that, a lot of what's going on here is largely positive in terms of professional stuff and in terms of personal stuff. And just the fact that we're sitting here now, both of us in the Atlantic Standard Time Zone. And I'm mindful here, Doug. I'm sorry to have pushed the meeting half an hour to accommodate my thing this morning. You're going out at low tide in about half an hour here, aren't you? Once the show is over.
Yeah, that's my squeeze at the other end. I made the commitment to it's low tide. It's across the road from where I live, and it's glorious. There's all kinds of room for
Glorious.
dogs to run. Glorious it's my second favorite time of the week. So
And I understand your partner slash wife slash partner in crime had at one point expressed some exploration or interest in podcasting for her PhD program. Am I remembering that correctly, pal? Because to me, that strikes me as something where your significant contributions to this show, I'm always like, I can replicate this for what I'm doing with the Dan. And I sort of wonder if you will be taking on somewhat of a role in your partner's podcasting, or if you're just helping provide some knowledge or practice from a constructionist standpoint. I'm kind of interested to hear about that.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. We're
Okay.
waiting on a little bit of music. We're going to do some thematic things that are different, like the way you did with Bog Monster Music and Today New Brunswick, More of the World. So yeah, we're going to take a slightly different tilt to it, and
Sure.
it's going to explore my wife's learning and some of her questions and some of those structures. Because the first time through anything, it's tough, right? You're lost. Where are you going? And once you've been through it, like I've helped so many people in their graduate studies, it's like, yeah, I'm already skipped to the next thing. Okay, yeah, do this, do that, and you're done. And sometimes I don't tell them that because I don't want to steal that learning opportunity. But so this is going to be a short little, we're going to have like one question an episode. We're going to talk about the one question, and all we're waiting on is I have somebody that is promised to help me with the theme music, and we're going to have the same theme music every week. And it's going to be quick, right? It's like 10 to 15 seconds of intro, 10 to 15 seconds of outro, and that's it. So it'll be interesting because I'm going to do a lot of the stuff for that you do for this, right? I'm going to be the sounding board. I'm going to do all the technical behind the scenes stuff, because when you're working full time and working on a doctorate, you don't have time to take on all the other projects. So I'll do all that kind of stuff.
That sounds rad. Well, as I think I've expressed in various episodes and or various versions of this episode, if you need an assist with the WordPress, because fundamentally, and I don't know, because this is speaking again to the personal aspect of it, the personal education infrastructure. I don't know how other people get their thing into the public sphere, but for me, as I've spoken to many times, I suppose the one aspect that's really resonated with me in a positive way, one of the things that's resonated with me in a positive way from my previous role, was sort of having the door opened to the potential for these WordPress sites. And just to me, the fact, just a plugin, you just go into the plugin directory, then you do a search, podcast as a search term, and you get 4 options. You just go with the one that has, and for me, my criteria was basically, has it been downloaded a bunch of times, which in this case this has. It's in the many thousands. For Blueberry, because it's spelled weird, Blueberry plugin for this. And then it's like, what else do you want to know? You want to know when it was updated last, because if they're not maintaining it, then you're just asking for trouble after the next time your WordPress site gets updated by your host, for instance. Because we have a hosted solution, I'll certainly pay $40 a year US to keep each of these domains running, as opposed to I'm going to buy a server and I'm going to download it onto my own server and I'm going to customize the shit out of it and this and that. It's nice to know it's an option, but yeah, $40 US a year to have somebody competent do it. Very nice, as Borat would say, I think. So Anyway, pal, there's a little bit of
So,
considerations and knowledge, some practical, technical-ish kind of things there for you.
and I appreciate all that. I know without a doubt I'll be leaning on you when I get to that stage. I've kind of enjoyed the fact that the music isn't ready yet, so that I can stall the rest of my learning. But what you just did is you just walked through the 5 A's of technology access that Robertson Hernandez in 2019 came up with. So it's
Okay.
another wonderful diagram for me, and it's availability, affordability, awareness, abilities, agency. And you walk
That's
through
nice.
all 5 of those steps with your description, which I really appreciate. It talks about, like, when you were talking about, like, who's it available for? Is it affordable? Is it right? You told me, like, am I aware, right? The awareness. Am I aware that, okay, I need the blueberry with the weird spelling of berry or blue, whatever, however you pronounce it. I couldn't get the spelling from how you pronounce it. And right. And it's like, even the digital literacy part. Yeah, we're both comfortable with it now. Right. Way more comfortable than we were a year ago. That's for sure.
So
way more comfortable than 2 years ago.
Well, for sure. And funny enough, both of us being explicitly doctorally qualified in this technology space, which is, I think, one of the things about a terminal degree that they drill into you from the moment you start, at least the University of Calgary experience was, you're prepared to be an expert in a very, very, very small area of practice. And your expertise, your thesis, is just going to go so narrow, but on the way to getting that specialized, you just pick up all this broadly general stuff, which, you know what I'm talking about, clearly, because that's why I said but you end up with all this extra kind of stuff that you've encountered along the way, and that's kind of a lot of, for me, what the value to studying at that level tended to be. It gets you your critical level of discernment up, because you have to sort through all this stuff on the way to that tiny little space that happens to be your particular thing within that. So it's like, it's not just a thesis. The thesis itself is just this tangible thing that sits atop all this other effort and work that went into it. Does that sort of jive with what you're saying there, pal?
Yeah, because with our terminal degrees, right, with our doctorates, we created new knowledge. And that helped us, like, getting there helped us with our agency, right? We have the self-efficacy to know how to use the technology, how to make use of it in a pedagogically appropriate way to help people learn, right? That's what we did. And, like, I remember one time I was sitting with some friends, and somebody's brother was there, and he's like, so what do you do? And he was a nurse, right? So everybody knows what a nurse does, right? They go and they help people in a hospital, as an example. He goes, what did you do today then? I said, well, I read some stuff and I wrote some stuff down, right? And he's like, that's it? And then all the researchers at the table were like, yeah, that's what we did. We're trying to build new knowledge. So we need the old knowledge, and we need to know where the gaps are, and we need to expand upon it. That's what we do. So he couldn't wrap his head around it. It's like, so you read and then you wrote. And I'm like, yep.
And you got paid to do that.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah, that
not
was
everybody
exactly.
can. Oh,
and
that's
he
the
was
thing. Not everybody can.
Or not everybody has the opportunity.
No, exactly.
Right?
I'm there for all the people who don't or didn't or whatnot. I like to think that I am.
And
Might
that
not be.
Oh yeah. So this new knowledge that you created with your COI research and the new knowledge I created with online learning, it's one of the issues is coming to the last the 2021 article I posted about the digital revolution, the Cirillo, Guerrero, Herrera's, Jaramillo,
Wow.
Alcaraz,
Wow. That's very
Luzan Marola.
alliterative. That's an awesome
Yeah,
sequel name.
I am a sucker for research that's not in the white Western middle class, upper middle class mainstream, right? I love going to what people are doing in other countries and other cultures because I think it's underrepresented, and I think some of their stuff is just so awesome. And they don't have the same thin slicing issues that a lot of post-secondaries have in the westernized world. So they get to actually say real stuff, and they do a study and they pump out one cool paper instead of slicing it up into 18 little papers. But
I think we have an episode to do just about thin slicing in educational research. I think that's an excellent takeaway from this. So if we want to put that in the pipe of the person who decides what the topics are in a given week. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to take the incredibly subtle hint. So that'll be on me. That's no problem. We'll do that for sure.
Sure.
And what they talked about is they talked about transforming education. Every time we learn new stuff, it can help transform education.
Yep.
Every time. But education, the current educational model is really similar to what it was 50 years ago. And a couple of months ago, I had a conversation where I made a comment. They're like, well, 50 years ago, I did that. And I'm like, 50 years ago, the vast majority of the people on the planet weren't alive. So, and we still had lead in car engines 50 years ago, right? Like,
asbestos in the
World Wide Web
walls.
certainly didn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Asbestos
Literally
was still there,
planet.
right? Like, we thought plastics breaking down was a good thing because then that stuff was just going to go away, right? Like, we've learned a lot in the last 50 years. So how come all these other things have changed? Like, have you ever seen that picture of all the different things? Like, there's a telephone, there's a radio, there's a boom box, there's a electronic note keeper, there's all those things. And then there's a smartphone right in the middle. And it's like, so you took all our jobs, right? And now if you try to do things like try to book a flight, like if you are ever on a flight and you get bumped, you can't go to customer support at the airport and get them to book you a new flight, right? They're like, no, go to the website and do it. You can't do that with a flip phone. You certainly can't do it if you don't have a phone on you, right? Like, the world has changed. And the current educational model is really similar to what it was 50 years ago. And why has that been slow and changing? And that's part of the whole infrastructure component of what we did. Like, we couldn't have done this 50 years ago. We couldn't have done this 15 years ago, right? With smartphones just starting, right? I realized that 17 years ago, I had a podcast for a year or something as part of a research project. But with the way you've moved and the way I've moved and our internet connections, we might have been able to do an audio thing, but we couldn't have done the video. There's no way. And the infrastructure wasn't in place for us to pump this out and have people listen on portable devices to the extent that it is now. Because it's kind of ubiquitous now, right? Like, everybody's got a portable device.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just love the topic. I love the whole concept about our personal education infrastructures, because we've learned so much. And when I'm getting stuff ready for students or other people that I'm going to be helping and teaching and stuff, how do I need to think about theirs, right? And that's the twist that I like. I like the whole concept of, okay, we're designing something, but my students aren't that capable on the computer, or they have one computer in their house and they share it with 5 people, or their internet connection is twitchy as. And it's one of those things. It's another thing in the toolbox that we got to think about.
Yeah, and I guess just some of the things that I've seen with these frameworks that you've brought in here, and I got to say, some of the graphics you've brought in, I like the 5 A's of technology access. We've talked about universal design for learning, UDL, somewhat before on this show, and when I see this kind of thing, the 5 A's of access, or some of the other, even the quality, because you brought them in, even the quality assurance model here that the Kelly and Phillips and Swift stuff. I like how we're kind of adding to our repertoire of frameworks, and just because you're using one of them or a couple of them, it doesn't rule any of the others out. It's just you keep adding to it, because then if somebody asks you why you're doing things in a certain way, you can have this whole set of reasons, of rationale. And to me, that's something where if you have the opportunity to provide full conceptual detail, and then you have that connected to the moment of e-learning, whether it's in this recording situation or post-recording or whatever, but it's so much better to have all this other stuff that underpins it or is on top of it that you can use or speak to the value of it when somebody asks you, well, why are you doing it that way? You can point to this, that, or the other thing. That's one cool thing of being, I suppose, qualified to a certain level and having a certain amount of years of experience, because your template, what you're capable of bringing to the situation is I think necessarily broader than otherwise. So,
and that's a luxury that we have, right? Our
yes.
personal education infrastructure includes the learning we've done in the past. And I like structuring it that way. And I really appreciate your comments that says you like the way I do it too, because then it's working for at least two of us. And
Exactly.
this is how we build new knowledge. Like I know in physics, there's a general model of relativity that gets worked on for years and years by all kinds of really smart people. We don't have a general model of education. Maybe that's something we should strive for, instead of forcing the practitioners to be stuck in their infrastructures of schools that were built 60 years ago out of concrete and brick, and the Wi-Fi can't even come through the walls and all that kind of stuff. That's another whole thing. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. but we got to start someplace. So why not start? Yeah, we could, but not today. That'll be another day. So I shared some other cartoony images, and I'd like to leave those as just Easter eggs for the website. So if people want to go and see where my brain was as I was preparing all this stuff,
I will just give you credit. I will just give you credit for the, how to know when you're middle-aged. I think that is a terrific piece of content that you've shared with us there. I think I'm not the only person who's going to look at that and go, well done on your curation there, dude, on that one. So
I really enjoyed it. I hope it would tickle you. So I'm glad you appreciate it as well. So anybody that wants to go to the website. It's there. If you can read whatever that old English style script is, it'll be there. It'll be fun for you. Hopefully you'll get a chuckle out of it. And I have 3 more things. The word of the podcast is infrastructure, because I think we said infrastructure more than we said, maybe.
I hope so.
Even though it was ironic this time. The phrase of the podcast, I'm being a little selfish right now. Normally the phrase of the podcast is something you've said. that tickles me that I put it in. But instead it was mine. It was like, I want disruptive, but not like that. Because that just,
Oh, dang.
oh, goodness.
Well, I'm going to say from the previous episode, what I've got there. Oh, maybe we're going to have two phrases of the podcast because
Absolutely.
we
That's
did.
fine.
It's all learning, isn't it? That's something that came up
Yeah.
during our previous version of this chat, which won't be coming out necessarily. I quite like both of them though. So.
Yep. And that was yours. So that we've shared on the phrases of the podcast.
And the question. What's the question of the podcast, Doug?
How can educators help students and fellow educators to have technology accessibility challenges? So how can we help them get to where they need to go? There's a pile of stuff. Like if we just look at the two graphics that the research has included, right? Let's narrow down what the actual accessibility issue is, and then start troubleshooting. It's a lot like when I talk to my wife, because sometimes she'll express a concern about something, and my first thought is, do you want me to listen? Are we at the emotional level where we're listening, or are we at the troubleshooting level where I can offer a solution? Because if it's just listening, cool, I could do that. If it's troubleshooting, yeah, normally I have a troubleshooting option too. But these are tools that might help other educators get there. It's like, okay, so what is the actual issue? And help them dig down to find out what the actual solution could be. So that's what I've got for this week.
Whoa, that's heavy. That's a significant educational and personal import. That's a good way to go out, pal, in my opinion.
Well, we didn't focus on a whole lot of the personal. We didn't say the word personal nearly as much as infrastructure. So I thought it would be a nice way to end.
I certainly went off on my share of personal tangents during the episode. That's kind of my preferred MO. I feel kind of comfortable being maybe overly disclosive of my personal circumstances sometimes, because I really tend to believe I did the case study method where my doctorate, and I really tend to think that in the individual case, in the individual narrative, it is possible to find commonalities and elements of things that ring out across the broader structure. So I'm actually going to be going to late breakfast / early lunch after this with my new friend and her dad and her brother. I'm going to meet them for the first time, and it's going to be. He quite rightly wants to know, well, who even is this guy? But I can honestly say between just LinkedIn and Instagram, if that's all you had for me, I can actually say I've got such a friggin' large amount of content that's just sitting out there. I think people around me would probably go, yeah, you could actually rein some of that in, pal. And surely there will come a point when I will, but it's just at this point, anybody who wants to know anything about my career or my personal hangups or whatever, I mean, it's coming out there on a weekly basis somewhat. So it's an interesting time to be in this overly social world sometimes, Doug. And I suppose to round out the personal aspect of the theme, the P and the PEI, if you will, that'll be where I kind of put it down for now myself. So is there anything else you wanted to add here, pal?
No, thanks. I'm just happy we did it and looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, and because the show notes have been conveniently done for quite some time, I will actually be able to send this to Doug for those of you who might want to know a little bit on the process. I'll be sending this to Doug once it gets churned out through Camtasia within a couple of hours, and then up on a limited view YouTube site. And then Doug will look at it for quality control because he really has been demonstrating more of that on this enterprise within his function of director. He's more the director and I'm more the producer is kind of, I think, how it's shaped up. And Doug will look at it from start to finish in all likelihood. I think that's what you do. You listen or watch the whole thing again. And then once he's able to endorse it going out the door, then I know it's checked the boxes that it needs to. And then you hit publish on the thing, or you start putting it out through the social media channels, and it will then percolate out through the plugin, if you will, out to Spotify and all those things, which I assume work unless people tell me they don't, which they don't. So anyway, pal, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.